Becoming a thought leader is not about becoming famous. It's about becoming foundational. It's not about having followers. It's about being followed for the right reasons, not for noise, not for trends, but for truth. Because in a world full of opinions, a thought leader is not just another voice. They are the voice of clarity. They don't speak to be seen. They speak to awaken, to build, to shape, to disrupt what's shallow, to deepen what's real. And the first principle? Earn the right to speak. Not by shouting louder, not by copying louder voices, not by mimicking what's popular, but by living what you teach, by becoming the message before you ever publish it. Because if your words don't echo your habits, the world will smell it. If your ideas don't flow from your integrity, your voice will feel hollow. And you may impress people for a while, but you'll never influence them. Because influence is not built in one post, it's built in patterns. In the silent, private, unglamorous choices no one claps for. That's where your credibility grows. That's where thought leadership begins. And it starts with one decision. You stop reacting to culture and you start shaping it. You stop being a consumer of noise and you become a creator of meaning. You don't chase relevance. You stand in resonance. You speak what matters, even when it's not popular, even when it's misunderstood. Because you're not leading to win a moment. You're leading to build momentum for people, for principles, for purpose. You want to be a thought leader? You must think in seasons, not seconds. In decades, not days. You must be willing to be early and endure the silence before the echo comes. That means clarity is everything. A thought leader is not someone who has something to say. It's someone who has something worth saying and knows exactly why it matters. Vague voices fade, but a clear message cuts through time, through noise, through resistance, because truth doesn't expire and truth doesn't beg to be liked. So become obsessed with clarity. Speak less, say more. Cut the fluff, cut the filler, cut the borrowed brilliance. Say what only you can say, in the way only you can say it. Thought leadership is not about knowing more. It's about owning your voice. It's about choosing your lens. Because when you stop trying to be the answer to everything, you finally become the authority in something. And in that something, you plant your flag. You go deep. You take people with you. Because the world doesn't need another echo, it needs a frequency. And your frequency only comes when you stop being agreeable and start being authentic. You want to become a thought leader? Then say something that actually cost you something. Say something that's rooted in your scars, not your strategy. Say something you've wrestled with, bled for, sacrificed for, and now carry not as a theory, but as a truth. That's what people follow. That's what people feel. Not clever, not clean, but real. Because real thought leadership isn't safe. It's not sanitized for social media. It's not dipped in neutrality just to keep everyone comfortable. It's dangerous, not because it attacks, but because it awakens. And the moment you speak something true enough to wake someone up, you become a threat to the status quo. And you have to be okay with that. Because if your goal is to be liked, you'll never say anything that matters. But if your goal is to be useful, if your goal is to liberate people from confusion, from limitation, from mediocrity, then you'll speak what needs to be said, not what's expected. And when you do, when you finally speak from truth, not tactics, you'll notice something shift. You'll no longer be trying to grow your audience. You'll be growing a tribe of trust. People who don't follow you because you're polished, they follow you because you mirror their calling. Because your courage gives them permission to stop hiding. Because your clarity silences their doubt. That's when you become more than a content creator. That's when you become a catalyst. But don't get it twisted, this takes courage. The kind of courage most never practice. The courage to be misunderstood. The courage to be early. The courage to stand alone, not forever, but long enough to prove what others couldn't see. And courage doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean shouting everything that crosses your mind. It means you filter your words through purpose. You don't speak for reaction, you speak for realignment. And that takes maturity. That takes discernment. That takes restraint. Because the deeper your voice goes, the more weight it carries. And when your words start to move people, shape thinking, drive behavior, you are no longer just expressing, you are entrusting. You are putting ideas into people's hands, hearts, and homes. That is not a role you take lightly. That is not something you do for likes. That is leadership. And leadership requires character. You want to be a thought leader? Then build a life that can carry the weight of influence. Build a rhythm that protects your voice. Build a mind that can think deeply. Build a heart that won't be hijacked by comparison, criticism, or clout. Because the more visible you become, the more disciplined you must be. Because popularity fades, but principle endures. And in the end, it's not the loudest voice that shapes the world. It's the most anchored. The one that does not flinch when trends shift. The one that does not bend under pressure. The one that rises consistently with conviction. Because true thought leaders don't chase the moment, they build movements. They don't need a viral post. They create generational ripple effects because their ideas are built on truth, not tactics. And how do you build that kind of voice? You become a student of your own message. You study what you teach. You practice what you preach. You master your craft before you multiply your platform. Because reach without roots is collapse waiting to happen. And too many people want to be heard without first becoming deep. They want to teach before they've become. They want to lead before they've lived. But your message only has power when it's earned through repetition, reflection, and refinement. A thought leader does not speak to be clever, they speak to be clear. They strip away everything that sounds good until what's left is what's true. And then they say it not once, but over and over, until the idea becomes part of the world's new vocabulary. Because the goal is not to impress people with your voice. It's to upgrade the conversation. And if you want to lead that conversation, you must know how to sit in silence, to think, to observe, to refine. That's what most won't do. They post, they publish, they press go on everything. But you sit with it. You wait. You test your idea against resistance, against time, against contradiction. And then, when the words emerge, they are solid, they are sharp, they are seasoned. And when people hear them, they change. That is the difference between noise and voice. Noise is reactive. Voice is intentional. Noise grabs attention. Voice gives direction. Noise fades. Voice forms. But don't walk this alone. Every great thought leader was once mentored, was once sharpened by someone else's insight. Don't let your ego isolate you. Seek wisdom. Sit at the feet of those who've already walked the path. Read their books, listen to their stories, study their failures, learn their rhythm. And then, don't copy them, carry what's useful, discard what's not, and craft what is uniquely yours. Because this journey isn't about being the next insert name here. It's about becoming the first and only you. That's what the world needs. A voice that cannot be replicated. Because it was forged, not fabricated, developed, not downloaded. Then here it comes, the final surge. The fire that doesn't just inspire, but awakens. The moment where your voice becomes more than expression. It becomes legacy. Because a true thought leader doesn't measure their impact by likes, views, or applause. They measure it by echoes. By the shifts they create in people who never even knew their name. By the new questions they plant in the hearts of the next generation. By the ripple that starts as a whisper and becomes a wave long after they're gone. You don't lead thought just to be relevant. You lead thought to rebuild reality. You take what's broken in culture and systems and mindset and you offer a better frame, a clearer path, a deeper question. And if you do it well, you won't just inform people, you will form them. You won't just be followed, you will be felt. In boardrooms, in classrooms, in quiet moments where someone faces a hard decision and hears your words guiding them toward truth. But none of that happens by accident. You must choose to become this. You must commit to the slow burn, to the deep work, to becoming the kind of person who doesn't just say important things, but lives a life that backs them every day, especially when it's hard. especially when it's quiet, especially when no one's watching. Because influence without character is dangerous. But influence built on truth, on service, on substance, that kind of influence doesn't just touch lives, it multiplies them. And when your voice becomes a mirror that reflects people's potential back to them, when your presence becomes a reminder of who they're called to be, you're no longer just a thought leader. You're a pathfinder, a builder of new worlds, a carrier of light. So speak with purpose, write with clarity, think with depth, share with courage, live with discipline, and build a voice that outlives you. That becomes a blueprint for those who come after. That becomes a light in times you'll never see. That becomes a legacy of thought, because you were bold enough to not just join the conversation, but to elevate it. That is what it means to lead with thought. That is what it means to lead with soul. That is what it means to be unforgettable. You don't get the life you want by chance. You get it by design. You don't stumble into greatness. You build it thought by thought, plan by plan, decision by decision, because hope is not a strategy. Wishing is not execution, and waiting is not progress. The truth is, most people want a better life, but they're thinking like someone stuck in survival. They're not building plans, they're building excuses. They're not making moves, they're reacting to moments. But you're here because you're done with that. You're here because something in you refuses to keep drifting. You're here because you've realized a good life doesn't come from reacting. It comes from thinking strategically, not rigidly, not coldly, but intentionally. Strategic thinking isn't just for CEOs and generals. It's for anyone who refuses to waste their one shot at this life. If your days feel random, if your outcomes feel inconsistent, if your purpose feels out of reach, it's not because you're incapable. It's because you haven't been taught to think like a builder, to think like someone who's architecting the life they want, not just hoping it shows up. That ends today, because you're going to learn how to think ahead, how to design with clarity, how to move with foresight, how to stop reacting to life and start directing it. And the first lesson? Think in outcomes, not emotions. Lesson 1, think in outcomes, not emotions. Emotions are important. They tell you what hurts, what matters, what needs to heal. But they should never be the driver of your decisions, because emotions shift like weather, and you cannot build a legacy on a storm. Most people live their lives in emotional reaction. They quit when they're tired. They snap when they're triggered. They stop when they're scared. And then they wonder why they don't feel powerful. But strategy says, feel your feelings, but follow your outcomes. What's the result you want? What's the life you're building toward? And what must you do even when it's uncomfortable to get there? Strategic thinking removes the drama. It clears the fog. It asks, what action leads me closer to my vision? Not, what do I feel like doing right now? Because here's the truth. Your feelings don't decide your future, your decisions do. When you start thinking in outcomes, you stop chasing approval. You stop being reactive. You start playing the long game. And in the long game, discipline outperforms mood. Every single time. Now let's go deeper. Lesson 2. Reverse engineer everything. Don't just dream. Deconstruct. What's the exact outcome you want? Income? Impact? Freedom? Influence? Name it. Write it. Get specific. Now, instead of asking, how do I get there? Ask, if I were already there, what would I have done to get here? That question flips everything. It pulls you out of confusion and into clarity, because now you're not guessing, you're building backward. Want a business? Study the model. Want to speak on stages? Study the steps. Want emotional peace? Study the habits of those who have it. This is how strategic thinkers move. They start with a vision and build the bridge backwards. No more hoping. No more winging it. No more walking blindly into another year. You reverse engineer it, one layer at a time. Lesson 3, leverage is the multiplier of strategic thinkers. You are not here to do everything. You are here to do what matters effectively. Strategic people don't win because they work harder. They win because they understand leverage. They know how to apply a small force in the right place to create a massive impact. Leverage is when one move does the work of 10, when one relationship opens 5 doors, when one decision frees you from 20 distractions. So ask yourself, where is my time going? Where is my energy going? What am I doing manually that could be automated? What am I doing alone that could be delegated? Strategic people remove friction. They remove the unnecessary. They remove the ego that says, I have to do it all myself. Because the goal isn't to be busy, it's to be effective. And leverage is the shortcut. That's not a shortcut. It's smart work, not more work. Want to scale your results? Find your leverage points. Build systems. Invest in people. Create content that works while you sleep. Say no to 90% of distractions so you can dominate the 10% that truly matters. Now here's another one. Lesson 4. Every day must point to the vision. This is not about perfection, it's about alignment. Every day you live is either pushing you closer to your dream or further into delay disguised as comfort. The food you eat, the way you speak, the calls you take, the content you consume, the people you allow close. It's all building something. The only question is what? So the strategic thinker doesn't ask, was today busy? They ask, was today in alignment? Because motion without direction is waste. But motion with vision, that's momentum. That's when life bends. That's when you stop surviving days and start designing decades. Lesson 5. Use mental models, not just motivation. Motivation can spark action. But strategic thinkers don't rely on sparks. They rely on systems of thought. They think in frameworks. They ask better questions. They don't just react to what's happening. They understand how to think about it. A mental model is a lens, a way of seeing, a shortcut to clarity when others are drowning in complexity. They ask, what's the root cause here, not just the symptom? If this were simple, what would it look like? What's the 80-20 here, the 20% of effort that gives 80% of results? When you build a toolbox of models, first principles, opportunity cost, second-order thinking, inversion, you outthink the chaos. You rise above the noise. Because strategy isn't just execution. It's discernment. It's knowing where not to focus. It's knowing when to stop as much as when to go. Lesson 6. Schedule thinking time. Most people schedule tasks. Strategic thinkers schedule thought. Because clarity doesn't come by accident. Breakthroughs don't happen in inboxes. Solutions aren't found while you're drowning in meetings. Thinking is working. And the clearer you're thinking, the less effort your action requires. Even 30 minutes a week, no phone, no distractions, just pen, paper, and deep questions like, what is the bottleneck in my progress right now? What am I avoiding that needs my courage? What would make everything I'm doing easier or irrelevant? This habit alone can transform your entire year. Because most people are busy being busy. But strategic thinkers, they pause so they can pull ahead. Lesson 7. Always ask, what's the one move that changes everything? This is the power question. The one that removes overwhelm. The one that silences noise. The one that unlocks exponential progress. In every season, in every project, in every problem, there's almost always one move that changes the whole game. Strategic thinkers hunt for that move. They don't try to do everything. They look for the keystone action, the domino that knocks down 10 others. The one thing that, if solved, unlocks everything else. It could be a conversation you're avoiding, a habit you haven't locked in, a hire you need to make, a fear you need to face, One thing. Find it. Name it. Do it. Because when you think like a strategist, your results stop being accidental. They become inevitable. Let's bring it home. Because now you know a better life isn't built on chance. It's built on strategy. It's not about hustle. It's not about luck. It's not about waiting for the right time. It's about clarity, leverage, discipline, and most of all, it's about thinking like a creator, not a survivor. You weren't meant to drift. You weren't born to repeat what's average. You were built to architect something different, to design with purpose, to move with foresight, to live a life that is not reactive, but intentional. And here's the truth. If your life doesn't feel like it fits, you were never meant to fit it. You were meant to change it, to reshape it, to rethink it strategically so it aligns with who you are becoming, not who you've been told to be. From today forward, let this be your standard. No more random days. No more wasted energy. No more letting circumstances decide what happens next. From now on, you decide. You build the life you want on purpose. You don't beg for outcomes, you engineer them. You don't just wish for impact, you leverage every hour to create it. You don't just react to life, you lead it. This is what strategic thinking gives you. A mind that moves faster than fear. A focus that outlasts fatigue. A future that doesn't need to be found because it's being built one move at a time. So don't ask if it's possible. Don't ask if it's too late. Ask, what am I willing to think like, act like, and build like to create the life I know I was meant for? Because you don't need another goal. You need a strategy. And now, you've got one. So go build. Deliberately. Boldly. Strategically. Because this is your time. And the life you want is waiting to be designed. Most people think education ends when school does. That once you've walked across a stage in a black robe, collected a paper with your name on it, and taken a photo with a forced smile, you've made it. But that belief is the first illusion that keeps millions stuck. Because education, real education, doesn't begin with a diploma. It begins with awakening. The moment you realize your mind is a field, and every day, whether you like it or not, something is being planted. The only question is, who's doing the planting? You or the world? Because if you're not the gardener of your own mind, weeds will grow. Default beliefs, lazy narratives, recycled thinking from people who quit on their own dreams and want you to do the same. That's the tragedy of most lives. They are lived on autopilot, running outdated programs, filled with borrowed opinions, and never once questioned. But education, true education, it's rebellion. It's clarity. It's choosing to break the loop and build something intentional in its place. Education is not information. It's not trivia. It's not data. Education is transformation. It's the fire that melts ignorance into insight, that reshapes identity, that cracks open the ceiling of I can't and replaces it with watch me. Education isn't about what you know. It's about who you're becoming because of what you now understand. And that understanding, it's not passive. It's earned, not through memorization, but through sweat, through questions, through pain, through practice. You don't receive education. You forge it. That's why the truly educated never stop learning, because they're not chasing facts. They're chasing freedom. The power to choose your thoughts. The clarity to see through lies. The courage to act when the world sleeps. The wisdom to say no when everyone else says yes. The humility to grow. And the discipline to apply. That's the education that changes you. Not the kind stamped on paper, the kind carved into character. So, if you think learning ends when class ends, you're already behind. The world is moving, with or without you. Every day there are new ideas, new tools, new patterns, new shifts. And the people who rise, they are not always the smartest, but they are always the most willing to keep learning. Because the truth is, in today's world, ignorance is a choice. We are surrounded by more knowledge, more access, more opportunity than any generation before us. Yet people scroll past their own future like it's entertainment. They binge noise and neglect nourishment. They chase gossip and miss greatness. They say learning is boring, but live a life they don't love. And that's why education will surprise you, because it doesn't always look like school. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like service. Sometimes it looks like struggle. But if you stay open, everything teaches you. The pain, the failure, the conflict, the chaos, the waiting, the losing, the long road no one claps for. All of it is education. So why do so few commit to it? Because real education doesn't flatter you. It confronts you. It calls out your laziness. It exposes your lies. It makes you look in the mirror and ask, am I still thinking like the person I was 5 years ago? Because if the answer is yes, then you're not educated. You're rehearsed. And there's a difference. Education doesn't just fill your mind, it stretches it. It demands you sit with discomfort long enough to discover your limits and then crush them. Most people don't grow because they don't like how growth feels. It's slow. It's humbling. It strips away your ego layer by layer. It says, you don't know enough. It says, you've got work to do. It says, you're not ready yet. But if you stay in that room of resistance, day after day, something magical happens. You become dangerous. Not because you know more trivia, but because you see deeper. You move sharper. You speak slower. You think clearer. And suddenly, the things that used to intimidate you, silence you, control you, now bow to the presence of someone who's become through education. Because here's the truth. Nobody says enough. If you don't educate yourself, the world will do it for you, and it doesn't care about your potential. It will teach you to fear, to conform, to settle, to follow, to trade your fire for comfort, your vision for approval, your uniqueness for acceptance. But the moment you take responsibility for your own education, the moment you stop waiting to be taught and start choosing to learn, that's when you take your power back. Because knowledge unlocks, it opens the next room, the next strategy, the next solution. It reveals the system behind the system, the truth behind the noise. And when you combine that knowledge with action, you're not just educated, you're equipped. Now you can build. Now you can serve. Now you can rise without asking for permission. Because you understand what's really going on, and you can move accordingly. That's why education is the great equalizer. It's not reserved for the elite. It's not sold in a classroom. It's accessed through intentional curiosity and relentless commitment. So no, education isn't about impressing people. It's about becoming someone you can trust. So what does it look like to truly be educated? It looks like discipline without needing deadlines. It looks like asking better questions instead of chasing louder answers. It looks like reading books no one assigned. It looks like reflecting when others are reacting. It looks like staying curious when the world gets cynical. It's waking up every day with one question on your mind. How can I think more clearly, act more wisely, serve more powerfully? Because real education doesn't just teach you what to think. It trains you how to think. How to see the difference between noise and signal, between hype and truth, between fast comfort and long-term freedom. It helps you spot manipulation in marketing, laziness in leadership, and weakness hiding inside loud opinions. And it doesn't stop. Not when you get the degree, not when you land the job, not when you make your first million, because education is not a phase, it's a posture. It's the way you walk through life. Humble enough to admit you don't know everything. Hungry enough to pursue what you don't understand. Smart enough to stay teachable. Strong enough to apply what you've learned. And here's where it gets real. Education doesn't always come from a teacher. Sometimes your greatest education comes from pain, from the people who betrayed you, from the dreams that didn't work out, from the moments you broke and no one noticed. Those are classrooms too. And if you're brave enough to ask, what is this here to teach me? You will graduate from experiences that once crushed you. Because wisdom isn't given, it's earned. Through fire, through silence, through falling and refusing to stay down. So if you're serious about changing your life, stop waiting for someone to hand you the keys. Go build the keys. Learn what they won't teach in school. How to manage your time, how to master your emotions, how to build wealth, how to speak with impact, how to listen deeply, how to think originally, how to unlearn what's holding you back. That's the curriculum that matters. And it's available if you'll demand more from yourself than the world expects from you. Because the truth is, education is not the path to a better life. It is the life. The moment you stop learning is the moment you start decaying. So don't let the fire go out. Feed it. Study your mentors. Reflect on your mistakes. Read. Practice. Ask. Build. And repeat. Every single day. And now, we arrive at the part no one talks about the reason education truly matters. Not because it gets you more money, more applause, more achievements. Those are side effects. Nice, yes, but not the core. The real reason is this. Education gives you back to yourself. Every hour you invest in learning, real learning clears away a little more of the fog, the doubt, the noise, the shame, the confusion. And what's left behind isn't just a smarter person. It's a truer person. A person who no longer needs to perform for acceptance. A person who no longer chases validation. A person who walks into rooms quietly and still commands them. Because they know, because they've built, because they've earned who they are. That's why this matters. Because there are people out there right now being paid more than you, heard more than you, seen more than you, not because they're more worthy, but because they learned faster. They took responsibility sooner. They read while others slept. They practiced while others complained. They got up when others sat down. And you can too. That's the surprise in all of this. That education isn't reserved for the privileged, it's activated by the hungry. Not the smartest, not the loudest, but the ones who choose to stay curious when it would be easier to stay comfortable. The ones who'd rather ask, why not me? Instead of, why is it so hard? The ones who don't chase shortcuts, they chase substance. So the next time you feel behind, overwhelmed, underqualified, remember this. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to learn one thing better. Think one layer deeper. Move one level higher. Because education is a staircase that never ends, and the only thing that separates the powerful from the passive is this. One keeps climbing. You want confidence? Learn. You want wealth? Learn. You want to speak, lead, build, grow, shift, serve, shine? Learn. Because education is the only investment that can never be stolen, never be taxed, never be lost. And the more you have of it, the more you become. So never again say, I'm not smart enough. Say, I'm not done yet. Never again say, I'm not like them. Say, I haven't learned what they've learned yet. Never again hide behind the excuse of background, of failure, of time. Because the school is always open. The only question is, will you show up? Because if you do, if you show up again and again, with your heart open and your ego silent, you won't just surprise others with what you learn. You'll surprise yourself with who you become. And that is the importance of education. When did you first taste failure? Not just the little stumbles, not the harmless rejections, but real soul-crushing, you question everything about yourself, failure. Maybe it was the first time you heard the word no, after giving everything you had. Maybe it was the time you gave your heart to a dream, and life answered with silence. Maybe you invested months, years into something that never gave back. We've all met failure, and it doesn't knock politely. It barges in, it interrupts, it humiliates. But here's what nobody told you. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the door. The key isn't to avoid it. The key is to unlock it. And the people who rise, the people who soar, the people who seem unstoppable, they aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who figured out how to keep becoming even when everything was falling apart. Let me take you there. Because this is not just a speech. This is your mirror, your map, your moment. You ready? Success is not for the lucky. It's not handed down in genetics or granted by some mysterious force. Success is reserved for the relentless, the ones who learn how to dance with failure and not flinch. And before you roll your eyes or say, "I've heard that before," let me challenge you with this. If failure didn't exist, would you still grow? Think about that. If everything came easy, would you still push yourself to become more? See, failure isn't just part of the journey, it is the very terrain on which success is built. Without it, there's no wisdom. Without it, there's no strength. Without it, there's no story. But what blocks most people from walking through the barrier is not failure itself, it's their relationship with it. Let's talk about mindset. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they believe failure defines them. They attach their identity to the outcome. I failed, so I must be a failure. But hear me clearly. Failure is an event. It is not a person. You're not broken. You're not done. You're not beyond repair. You're in the middle of the refining process, the exact same one that every giant before you has walked through. Thomas Edison tried 0 times to create the light bulb. 10,000. Imagine if he quit at 999. You wouldn't be reading this in light. But Edison didn't see those attempts as mistakes, saw them as information. Feedback, data, growth. That's the mindset of a master. So ask yourself, what story do you tell yourself when you fall short? Is it one of shame and retreat? Or is it one of learning and recalibration? The story you tell yourself, that's the foundation of everything. Now let's dig deeper. Because belief is the soil your success will either die in or grow from. Most people think belief is about positive thinking, that if you say enough affirmations, your life will magically shift. But real belief is not words. It's behavior. It's what you choose to do when your back is against the wall. It's waking up after a failure and still showing up, still swinging, still sweating. That's belief in action. You can't fake belief. You demonstrate it. You prove to yourself through movement that you still believe in your worth, your dream, your direction. And when you act in belief long enough, something amazing happens. The world starts to believe in you too, because people can feel it. They know when someone walks into a room and has already defeated failure in their mind. That person commands respect not because they're loud, but because they've walked through the fire and they're still here. So let me ask you, what do you believe about you? Do you believe your past disqualifies you? Do you believe your failures are final? Or do you believe there's more in you than you've ever let out? Because belief is not about ego. It's about alignment. And until your beliefs align with the vision of who you want to become, you will self-sabotage every single time. Clarity. Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they're confused. They haven't defined what success means to them. So every failure feels like devastation when really it was just misdirection. You cannot hit a target you never set. You can't overcome what you haven't named. Clarity is power. It makes failure useful. When you're clear on what you want, every mistake becomes a compass. Oh, not this way? Good. Let's adjust. Let's sharpen. Let's move. But when you're unclear, every mistake feels like an earthquake. The successful treat failure like feedback. The unclear treat failure like final judgment. So define it. What does success mean to you? Not your parents, not society, not social media. You. Is it freedom, impact, mastery, peace? Once you're clear, failure becomes directional. And when failure becomes directional, it becomes a gift. Vision is the fuel. Clarity defines the destination. But vision makes you burn for it. Vision gives pain a purpose. When the nights are long, the rejections are brutal, and the support is gone. Vision is what whispers, we're not done yet. But vision isn't just about goals. It's about identity. You don't just imagine what you want to have you visualize who you must become. A clear vision forces you to change. It doesn't let you stay mediocre. It challenges you. It calls out the stronger version of you hiding underneath the hesitation. So paint your vision vividly. See it, smell it, taste it, feel it. If your vision doesn't give you goosebumps, it's not big enough. Let it be so clear that failure feels like a detour, not a death sentence. Now we arrive at purpose. Why do you want it? Because this matters more than you think. When the failures pile up and the doubts scream louder than your dreams, your why is what keeps you breathing. Weak reasons breed weak effort. Strong purpose pulls you through the mud and keeps your head above water. If your reason for rising isn't strong enough to move you through pain, it won't last. So dig deeper. Is it your family? Is it the legacy you want to leave? Is it proving to yourself after all these years that you are worthy? Your purpose doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to ignite you. Let it be personal. Let it be raw. And let it be the reason you turn failure into fuel. Discipline. Discipline, the unsexy word that nobody wants to talk about. But let me tell you something real. Discipline is love in motion. It's you saying to your dream, I will show up for you, even when I don't feel like it. Because motivation fades, emotions shift, but discipline is a decision. And most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because they lack consistency. They show up once, get burned, and never return. But success belongs to the consistent, not the intense. Discipline is choosing to rise when comfort begs you to sit. It's doing the reps, even when the results haven't shown up yet. It's faith in practice. It's proof that you're serious. And the more you choose discipline, the more your failures become stepping stones, not tombstones. Let's now walk into action, because nothing changes until you move. You can think, believe, visualize, and journal all you want. But if you don't act, you don't grow. The world rewards doers. And here's the paradox: most people wait until they feel ready to take action. But you will never feel fully ready. You will never be 100% sure. You will never have every answer. So act anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move while fear is still screaming. Massive success is built on small, repeated actions. You don't climb Everest in one leap. You climb it one disciplined step at a time. So take the step, even if you're scared, even if you failed last time, even if no one claps for you. Move. Because when you move, you build momentum. And momentum beats motivation every single time. Gratitude. Now, you might be thinking, what does gratitude have to do with failure? Because failure doesn't just test your strategy, it tests your spirit. And if your spirit becomes bitter, if your heart grows cold, you lose more than momentum. You lose yourself. Gratitude is the secret weapon that softens the blow of failure while sharpening your focus for the next round. It's you looking at life and saying, I may not have what I want yet, but I'm stronger because of the struggle. I'm wiser because of the wound. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing value in the pain. It's about learning to say, thank you, failure. You showed me what doesn't work. You revealed who's real. You humbled my ego. You revealed my gaps. You taught me where I need to grow. Gratitude makes you resilient. Because when you're grateful, you're grounded. And grounded people don't panic when the storm comes. They plant deeper roots. Now let's talk about adaptability. Because the truth is, life will not go according to your plans. You will be thrown off course. You will be disappointed. And here's the reality. The most successful people aren't the smartest. They're the most adaptable. They don't marry one method. They stay loyal to the mission, but flexible in the approach. When one door closes, they don't stare at it for 10 years hoping it will open again. They pivot. They ask better questions. What does this failure make possible now? Adaptability is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's you saying, my dream still lives, even if the method has to evolve. Most people fail because they refuse to change direction. They keep pushing in the same broken way, hoping something will magically shift. But the world belongs to those who can bend without breaking, those who adjust without abandoning their purpose. Then comes resilience, not just grit, not just endurance, but deep inner resilience. This is the kind of power that builds not in success, but in your darkest moments. It's the voice inside you that says, I'm tired, but I'm not done. I'm bleeding, but I'm still breathing. I'm hurting, but I'm healing. Resilience is forged in the fire of repeated failure. It's when everything in you wants to quit, but something stronger rises. You don't learn resilience from books. You earn it from battles. And if you've been knocked down lately, hear this. You're not broken. You're becoming. You're not weak. You're in training. Your resilience is being chiseled in silence so that when the moment comes, you won't just survive, you'll lead. And now we arrive at the final force that ties it all together, learning. Because failure without reflection is wasted. But failure with reflection, that's your masterclass. Every setback is a syllabus. Every misstep is a mentor. But only if you pause long enough to ask, what is this here to teach me? Don't rush past the pain. Don't numb it. Don't ignore it. Sit with it. Study it. Squeeze the wisdom from it. Because success is not built on talent alone. It's built on the ability to extract insight from every fall. You see, a person who fails once and never learns is stuck. But a person who fails 5 times and grows 5 levels deeper, that person is unstoppable. So study yourself. Study your habits, your patterns, your blind spots. Become a student of your own life. And when you learn, really learn, you stop fearing failure because you know it always brings a gift. Now let me bring it all together, not as a conclusion, but as a call to action. You failed. So what? You're scarred. Good. You've been humbled. Even better. Because now you have what most people spend their whole lives avoiding, the raw material for greatness. And the truth is this. The most successful people you admire, they're not where they are in spite of failure. They're there because of it. They failed louder. They failed bigger. They failed with their whole heart. But they got back up faster. They learned quicker. They loved deeper. They trusted themselves, even when the world said, sit down. So now it's your turn. Your dream still lives. Your vision still matters. And your failures, they are not graves. They are gardens. Now rise. Let the fire in your bones be louder than the fear in your mind. Let your heart beat for something greater than perfection. Let your life echo with resilience. Because the key to overcoming failure's barrier is you. And you were never meant to quit. Let's go deeper. Because even after you rise from failure once, life doesn't promise you won't fall again. This isn't a one-time test. This is a lifestyle. And the people who become truly unshakable are the ones who develop what I call emotional immunity. They don't just know how to get back up. They've trained their nervous system to remain steady when the storm hits. They've failed so many times that failure no longer frightens them, it focuses them. So let me ask you, can you train yourself to feel the sting and still move forward? Can you be rejected and not reduce your self-worth? Can you lose and not label yourself a loser? Because when you can do that, you become dangerous in the best way possible. Unstoppable. Because your emotions no longer control your execution. And that's the edge most people never develop. Here's another truth that no one likes to hear. Some failure is your fault. And that's okay. Because extreme ownership is not about blame, it's about power. You see, as long as it's someone else's fault, you have no control. But when you say, no, this was on me, you reclaim the keys to your own evolution. You stop pointing fingers and start building character. And that's when transformation happens. Not when you make excuses, but when you make adjustments. Be honest with yourself. Maybe you didn't prepare. Maybe you procrastinated. Maybe you let fear drive the wheel. Own it. Forgive yourself. then fix it. That's how leaders are mad not in the glow of applause, but in the silence of self-awareness. Now we talk about identity. Because if you don't change who you are at the core, no strategy will stick. You must become the kind of person who succeeds. Not just act like one, become one. And here's the key most miss. Identity is built through repetition, not revelation. It's not one powerful quote, one emotional video, or one good day that shifts you. It's the daily decision to act in alignment with the person you want to be. You want to be confident? Speak with truth, even when your voice shakes. You want to be consistent? Show up, even when motivation leaves. You want to be unstoppable? Do the work, even when nobody is watching. Identity isn't built in public. It's forged in the hidden hours when you could have quit but chose not to. Let's now get brutally honest about what separates the 1% who break through from the 99% who don't. Emotional discipline. You've been trained to chase feelings. Feel good? Work hard. Feel bad? Shrink back. But feelings are not your God. They are not your compass. They are not your identity. They are signals, not instructions. And the mature mind knows how to hear the feeling and still do what needs to be done. The gym doesn't care how you feel. The vision doesn't care if you're tired. The dream doesn't check your emotional state before deciding whether to come true. Discipline is doing it regardless. It's saying, my feelings are real, but my future matters more. That's the shift that changes your life. And now we arrive at something rarely discussed, but absolutely vital. Forgiveness. Because one of the greatest barriers to success is not external failure. It's internal resentment. You can't rise while dragging bitterness. You can't build while holding grudges. Some of you aren't failing because you lack strategy. You're failing because your heart is heavy. You're mad at the people who left. You're mad at the boss who didn't see your worth. You're mad at yourself for not being perfect. But listen carefully. You don't forgive for them. You forgive to move. Forgiveness is fuel. It clears the runway for your greatness. Let go not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because your future deserves the full version of you, not the one weighed down by the past. Let's go further. Let's talk about environment. You can't plant a seed in concrete and expect it to bloom. And you can't place your dream in toxic soil and expect it to grow. Your surroundings matter. The conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, the expectations around you, they either pull you forward or keep you small. So ask yourself, are you surrounded by vision or by fear? By people who see your greatness or by people who keep you tame? Success is not just about effort, it's about exposure. What are you breathing in every day? If your environment doesn't stretch you, it shrinks you. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough is not internal, it's positional. Move. Upgrade your circle. Clean your space. Feed your mind. Because you cannot become who you're meant to be while staying where you've always been. We're getting now closer to the part of you that's been waiting to awaken. Let's talk about timing. Because some of you feel like you're late. You failed. And now you think it's too late to rise again. Let me free you from that lie. You're not late. You're right on time for the version of you that's being born. Your delay is not denial. It's development. You weren't supposed to succeed back then because who you were couldn't carry the weight of where you were going. You needed the heartbreak. You needed the silence. You needed the isolation. Because sometimes it takes breaking to become whole. So breathe. You didn't miss your window. Your window is opening now because you're finally becoming the person who's ready to walk through it. Let me end this not with motivation, but with a mandate. You were not put here to live small. You were not designed to exist in the shadow of your failures. You were built for greatness, not comfort. For impact, not survival. So here's your choice. Keep dragging the weight of your past failure, or use it to build your future fortress. Turn your wounds into wisdom. Turn your regret into rhythm. Turn your losses into leverage. Because the key was never out there. It's been in you the whole time. And now, The world is waiting to see what you'll do with it. Rise. They lied to you, not because they wanted to hurt you, but because they didn't know better. They told you success was a destination, a place you arrive at, a title you earn, a house you buy, a car you drive, a number in your bank account. They said if you work hard, say the right things, shake the right hands, maybe, just maybe, you'd get there. But they never told you the truth. The truth is, success isn't a finish line. It's not a reward. It's not something you get. Success is something you build every day, brick by invisible brick, when no one's watching and everything inside you wants to quit. Success is not what you have, it's who you become. It's in the way you speak when no one's listening. It's in the decisions you make when the pressure is real. It's in the quiet promises you keep to yourself when motivation is gone and discipline is the only thing left standing. You don't create success by shouting. You don't create success by faking. You don't create success by chasing the appearance of it. You create success by becoming a person who can't help but attract it because of how solid, how disciplined, how convicted you've trained your soul to be. Success is not given. It's not inherited. It's forged. Forged in early mornings and late nights. Forged in self-doubt and still showing up. Forged in the moment you decide to stop blaming your past, your parents, your boss, the system, and start owning every second of your future. Real success doesn't look like applause. It looks like alignment. It looks like getting up and doing the work when no one understands your vision. It looks like choosing integrity when shortcuts are everywhere. It looks like delaying gratification when everyone else is cashing out for comfort. It's the way you carry yourself when nothing is working, because you know something deeper is being worked on inside you. Success doesn't knock. It doesn't arrive. It doesn't show up at your door with balloons. Success is summoned, pulled toward you by the gravity of your character, by the energy of your excellence, by the clarity of your intention. And the truth is, success doesn't care how you feel. It responds to how you move. It doesn't answer to your hopes. It answers to your habits. It doesn't care what you post. It cares what you practice. You can talk like a winner and still lose if your actions betray your words. But when you align the unseen, your thoughts, your discipline, your mindset, with the actions you repeat daily, you become unstoppable. Because now, success isn't something you're chasing. It's something you're becoming, something you're radiating, something that echoes from your presence before you ever say a word. That is the truth they never told you. And now that you know, the question is simple. Will you build it? Success begins where most people stop, right at the edge of boredom, right in the middle of repetition, right after the excitement fades and the real work starts. Because here's what they never teach you. Success is boring. It's not glamorous. It's not highlight reels and fireworks. It's waking up over and over and choosing to do what matters most, even when it doesn't feel magical. It's mastering the mundane, falling in love with the fundamentals. It's writing when no one's reading, practicing when no one's clapping, serving when no one's noticing. And it's in those quiet repetitions, stacked day after day, that greatness is born. But the average mind can't handle boredom, so they quit. They jump to something new, something shinier, and they start again chasing dopamine, chasing validation, chasing a shortcut that doesn't exist. That's why you must choose to be different, to endure what most won't, to value consistency over novelty, depth over speed, mastery over popularity. Because in the long run, it's not the smartest who win. It's the most devoted. The ones who don't just dabble, they decide. Who don't just plan, they build. And the building isn't loud. It's not sexy. It's slow, relentless, brick by brick. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake slowness for failure. But slowness isn't failure. Slowness is foundation. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And if you want success that lasts, not success that flashes and fades, You must dig. You must go deep when others go fast. You must go long when others go loud. You must show up when others sit down. Because the truth is, success won't meet you halfway. It will wait at the end of your commitment, at the edge of your effort, just past your excuses. That's where it lives. Not in your vision board, not in your hashtag, in your grit, in your grind, in your grace under pressure. In the days you want to give up but don't. In the choices you make when nobody would know if you slacked off. That's where real success is hiding, and it's watching. Watching how you treat the little things. Watching how you act when you think no one sees. Watching whether your standards bend when it gets hard. And if you prove yourself worthy not with talent but with tenacity, then it begins to move. Slowly at first, quietly, but then momentum. And momentum doesn't ask permission. It builds, it multiplies. It breaks barriers that logic said couldn't move. And suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. Because success doesn't change your life. You change your life. And success responds. So now we strip away the lies, the illusions, the highlight reels. We talk about the real, the part no one posts. The long nights with no reward. The early mornings with no applause. The moments when doubt wraps around your throat like a vice and whispers, "Who do you think you are?" The truth is, success isn't made in crowds. It's forged in the quiet. It's built in the unshared hours. It's who you are when no one is watching, when the cameras are off, when the inbox is empty, when the likes are silent. That's when it happens. That's when the real work begins. When you show up anyway. When you stay true anyway. When you deliver anyway. Because you know that success doesn't show up on schedule. It shows up for those who stay. Who keep the promise long after the mood has left. Who've trained themselves to act from conviction, not convenience. You don't need more time. You need more truth. The truth that most people aren't willing to face. That comfort is a trap. That chasing approval will kill your authenticity. That waiting for motivation is just another excuse to do nothing. You don't need motivation. You need standards. You need systems. You need rituals that turn chaos into order, weakness into rhythm, and emotion into action. Because success isn't for the most emotional, it's for the most equipped. And equipping yourself means doing the work before the reward shows up. It means believing without proof, acting without praise, and rising without permission. That's what separates those who try from those who transform. That's why most people stay average. Because they wait to feel ready. Because they fear being misunderstood. Because they want guarantees in a game that only rewards grit. And here's the irony: the success you crave, the future you dream of, the life you're chasing. It's not hiding behind talent. It's hiding behind your patterns. Behind what you repeat, what you tolerate, what you allow, what you reinforce with your habits, your focus, your discipline. So ask yourself, what do I do when it's hard? What do I do when no one's clapping? What do I do when it's boring, slow, uncertain? Because how you answer that is your truth, not what you post, not what you say, what you do, daily, repeatedly, especially when it's difficult. That's where success is hiding, not in the future, but in your default settings. Change those, and everything changes. So here it is, the truth they never printed in books, never taught in classrooms, never said on stages filled with lights and smiles. Success is not a mystery. It's not magic. It's not reserved for the lucky or the loud. It's earned day by day by the ones who refuse to be ordinary, by the ones who choose alignment over applause, by the ones who are willing to be misunderstood today so they can be undeniable tomorrow. You want to create success? Then you must break the addiction to comfort. You must trade convenience for conviction. You must stop negotiating with your limitations and start renegotiating your future. Because success is not something you chase. It's something you construct. It's built in how you think, how you speak, how you show up, not once in a while, but always. It's not found in the grand gesture. It's found in the daily grit, in the hours no one counts, in the sacrifices no one sees, in the commitments no one claps for. It's what you build in the silence that echoes the loudest. And when you build long enough, true enough, hard enough, the world begins to respond, not immediately, not all at once, but unavoidably. Because success is not a lightning strike. It's a rising tide. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be brilliant. You need to be relentless, unapologetic in your standards, unshakable in your principles, unstoppable in your execution. That's what builds momentum. That's what creates results. That's what moves mountains. You want to rise? Then root yourself in truth, in growth, in mastery, not in image, not in hype, not in trying to look successful, but in becoming someone who no longer has to try. Because when success lives inside you, discipline, clarity, courage, ownership, it becomes impossible for the world not to feel it. You won't have to prove yourself. You'll just be it. Walk in rooms and shift the energy. Lead with calm when others panic. Stand firm when others beg for validation. Because success, real success, is magnetic, but only to those who carry it with quiet certainty. And that certainty doesn't come from ego. It comes from alignment. From building a life, a rhythm, a pattern where every thought, every word, every choice reflects the future you've decided to create. So now you stand at the edge. No more illusions. No more waiting. No more excuses dressed as logic. You know what it takes. You know it's not about luck, not about talent, not about someone picking you. It's about you picking yourself again and again and again until the world has no choice but to recognize what you've become. Because success doesn't come when you want it. It comes when you've earned it. Through choices no one applauded. Through sacrifices no one understood. Through repetitions no one respected until the result was undeniable. You want to know how to create success? You create it like a sculptor carves stone, by chipping away at everything that isn't you, at every lie, every fear, every excuse, every limitation that said stay safe when your soul said go. You create it by becoming the kind of person who can carry what you're asking for. Because success doesn't respond to hope. It responds to preparation. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you're ready for. So become ready. Get your mind right. Get your soul aligned. Build habits that match your ambition. Raise standards that make average uncomfortable. Set boundaries that protect your focus. Move like the future is yours because it is if you're bold enough to claim it. There will be days you fall. Get up. There will be days you doubt. Get clear. There will be days you're tired. Keep moving. Because the truth is this: no one's coming to save you. But no one needs to, because you have everything inside you to save yourself. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need more followers. You need more follow through. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a permanent decision. And when you make it, when you truly make it, life moves. The right people show up. The right doors crack open. The right momentum begins to flow. Because the universe doesn't respond to fear, it responds to faith expressed through action. So don't wait another year. Don't wait for more certainty. Don't wait for someone to validate your vision. Start. Start scared. Start unsure. Start underprepared. Just start. And don't stop. Because the truth about how to create success is this: you don't wish for it. You work for it. You become it. You embody it. And when you do, the world doesn't just watch, it follows. Let me tell you a secret most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Safety is the greatest illusion ever sold. And the price you pay for chasing it is your potential. Every great thing you've ever dreamed of, every bold goal you've dared to write down, lives on the other side of risk. Not because life is cruel, not because success is reserved for the lucky, but because growth requires movement, and movement requires uncertainty. You don't evolve in safety. You don't grow in comfort. And you definitely don't reach your greatest self by doing what you already know. You were not built to stay in one place. There is something in your spirit that craves expansion, that needs to break the walls of what's familiar so you can meet the version of you haven't become yet. And that's the real reason why risk is required. Because until you step into the unknown, You don't just avoid failure, you also avoid transformation. Until you take the leap, you'll never know what wings were waiting to unfold. You can stay safe, or you can become powerful. But you can't be both. Look around. Every person who has ever inspired you risked. They risked rejection. They risked failure. They risked being misunderstood, laughed at, walked away from. But they chose the discomfort of becoming over the illusion of security. Why? Because deep down they knew the risk of regret is always greater than the risk of failure. Because fear rarely announces itself as fear. It speaks with the voice of logic. It wears the mask of being realistic. It whispers things like, now's not the right time. What if you lose everything? Or, you're not ready yet. But that's not wisdom. That's not caution. That's camouflaged fear. Fear that has learned to speak in the language of justification. You call it timing. You call it strategy. You call it preparation. But what you're really doing is postponing your life. And here's what's cruel. Every day you delay your leap, your confidence erodes. Every time you ignore that inner pull, your belief withers. And one day you don't even need fear to stop you because you've trained yourself to stay small. Most people don't fail because they risked and lost. They fail because they never leapt at all. They wake up in the same job with the same habits, around the same people, telling the same story that they're waiting for the right moment. But the right moment is not something you wait for. It's something you decide to make. You don't become legendary by playing defense. You don't build an extraordinary life by avoiding discomfort. You rise by choosing to feel fear and move anyway. Every risk you avoid today becomes a boundary for tomorrow. And soon, you don't live in freedom. You live in a fenced version of your potential. You pace around your own limits and call it being responsible. But it's not responsibility. It's resignation. It's surrender. Dressed up in excuses. You want power? Then you have to be willing to risk comfort. You want growth? Then you have to be willing to risk familiarity. You want greatness? Then you have to be willing to risk being seen, being stretched, and maybe even failing but rising anyway. Because the truth is this, risk doesn't just shape outcomes. It reveals who you are. It pulls the curtain back. It strips away comfort and exposes your character. When the guarantee is gone, who do you become? Do you retreat or do you rise? You see, uncertainty is not your enemy, it's your training ground. It's where strength is formed. It's where resilience is forged, not by what you avoid, but by what you walk through. You don't become strong by reading about risk. You become strong by stepping into it again and again until the fear becomes familiar and the unknown becomes home. Because every time you risk, you reclaim power. Not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because you decided you were worth the attempt. You said, I will not let comfort keep me caged. You said, I'd rather be stretched than safe. You said, I am not here to play small. And something changes in you when you live like that. You stop begging life to hand you certainty, and you start building the capacity to lead through uncertainty. That's when people notice. That's when your energy shifts. That's when doors open. Not because you knocked, but because your energy breaks walls. Because people don't follow the most talented. They follow the bravest. The ones who risk being wrong. The ones who speak when it's hard. The ones who move when it's messy. The ones who go first. And here's the truth that sets the courageous apart. You don't rise by being fearless. You rise by being faithful in spite of fear. Then listen closely, because this is where it all comes together. Risk is not recklessness. It's not carelessness. It's not blind ambition. Risk is reverence. It's saying to life, I trust what's inside of me more than I fear what's in front of me. It's honoring your calling with movement. It's proving to yourself that your dreams are not decoration. They are destiny. And destiny doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to boldness. There is no such thing as a meaningful life without risk. Because anything worth living for, love, purpose, freedom, greatness, it all demands something of you. It asks you to let go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. It asks you to lose certainty and find conviction. It asks you to surrender comfort and pick up courage. It asks you to walk forward even when the road is foggy, even when the voices say, play it safe, even when your knees shake and say, I'm doing it anyway. Because you don't get to keep your old life and build a new one. You don't get to keep your comfort and claim your calling. You don't get to stay safe and rise. You have to choose. And here's the miracle. When you choose risk, you unlock revelation. You meet parts of yourself that only pressure can reveal. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You become magnetic not because you're fearless, but because you've been through fear and kept going. And soon you'll realize the risk wasn't risking at all. The real risk was never risking anything. The real danger was letting the dream die inside you because you were too afraid to trust the wings that were waiting to grow. So today, if you hear that voice calling you to stretch, to leap, to move, listen to it. That's not recklessness. That's not foolishness. That's life inviting you into greatness. And your job is to say yes.